The most news in the morning. CNN's American Morning. Weekday, 6 a.m. Eastern.
A Washington think tank, the Bipartisan Policy Center, is launching a simulated cyber shockwave. The Situation Room, and you can see it there, is being prepped as we speak, and an all-star lineup of the country's top security and policy experts are at the ready. Scenarios could include a large-scale failure of the power grid or an attack on something we can't even imagine living without at this point, the cell phone grid. Joining us now for the AM Security Watch, one of the masterminds of it all, former CIA Director General Michael Hayden, and one of the participants, our very own national security contributor, Fran Townsend. Fran was a Homeland Security advisor to President George W. Bush and will be playing the role of the Homeland Security Secretary for this morning's simulation. Great to see you, General Hayden. Let's start with you. You are, as we said, the mastermind of this. You've designed the situation for simulation. Walk us through it to the best of your ability without giving it away. What have you got planned for the folks today?
Sure, John. And what we try to do is to create a scenario here for folks that wasn't inherently Armageddon, because people then walk away from that in despair. But something that could happen, something that takes things that are not unlikely and puts them together in a way that creates consequences. And the idea here is not so much to play with the scenario per se, but to use the scenario to drive policy questions. It's our hope that as our players play through the scenario, they'll begin to realize that there's some things that could have been decided earlier that would make dealing with the current crisis as we create it a lot easier to do.
And Fran, as we said, you're going to be playing the part of the Homeland Security Secretary for this demonstration, this simulation. Are you confident that the government now has the tools to defend against a massive cyber attack, the type of which General Hayden's got planned for you today?
I'm absolutely confident that the government doesn't have the tools, and the purpose of the exercise, John, is to identify those vulnerabilities and gaps so that we can suggest to the administration where to focus their attention. We know we don't have the capability of analysis and attribution. We know we don't have redundancy and resiliency in the cyber system, despite our reliance on it. And I expect those are the gaps you're going to see us have to play through in the scenario. And then it's a matter of taking it forward with the administration to try and identify and fill those gaps.
All right, let me stop you there and go to Director Hayden for a second here. You just heard what Fran said, General, that she's confident the government does not have the tools, does not have the mechanisms to defend against a cyber attack. People at home might be saying right now, what?
No, I couldn't agree more with the way Fran laid it out. And our hope here, look, John, when people look at this and have the reaction you just described, this problem looks bigger than all outdoors, and in many ways it is. The purpose of this drill is to disaggregate that problem into digestible policy doses so that we can begin taking this one brick at a time and to build up the kinds of defenses that we'll need as a nation. Right now, and it's no one's fault, this is just new and technologically demanding, and I should add, it's policy demanding. You'll see in the exercise, we won't get one or two steps out of the starting blocks in issues like privacy, public-private partnerships. Will be out there full square, issues that we have to deal with, and frankly, we haven't done a very good job of doing that yet.
Well, I got to tell you, on the surface at least, what you're telling us this morning is not necessarily very comforting. Let me ask you, Fran, about one of the most recent, most publicized attacks was the Chinese hacking of Google. They were looking into some emails of some Chinese dissidents. Google has now got an arrangement with the National Security Agency to try to look at all of this, which may raise some questions and some anxieties among people who say, well, wait a second here. The private sector partnering with the government, okay, it might be good for security, but what about for privacy issues?
Well, as General Hayden said, we're going to have to grapple with the privacy and civil liberties concerns. But let's be clear, NSA has tremendous capability on the defensive side that if there's a partnership with companies like Google and other internet service providers, they can help provide and guide them through the defensive tools. This is not about looking at content that Google has. It's about helping them defend their own network. And that's really important. We need to educate the American people about why that's a good thing.
And at the same time, General Hayden, so you've got the government helping the private sector, but then you also have the private sector companies like AT&T, Quest, Verizon, who are getting contracts from the government to provide security. Who's better at doing this, government or the private sector?
Oh, no. This has got to be a team sport, John. Each player brings their own particular strengths to it. But there are reasons of American history and American political culture, reasons of privacy, reasons of law, that it's going to make it difficult for us to get the kind of good teaming that we need. This exercise is designed to kind of point out the stress points, and then let's now, all as adults, respecting our heritage, respecting our rights, but also understanding our current needs, get together and work our way through these problems.
And Fran, we saw the attack on Google, but hacking email is one thing, but national security is quite another. We know that the Pentagon is probed thousands of times every day. What's the nightmare scenario in terms of a cyber attack against the United States?
John, I wish there were just one nightmare scenario, but think of it, whether it's an attack on transportation, think of subways, trains, airplanes, financial institutions. Imagine your ATM not working. Electric power grid. Imagine the lights going out and what the consequences of that would be. So there isn't just one threat vector that's the nightmare scenario. You really have to build a policy framework that you can then apply to any one of these depending on where you're attacked.
All right. Fran,
John, I wouldn't be surprised as we started the exercise here today. The first question that the National Security Advisor is going to ask is, who's in charge of this? And that's going to be one of the fundamental questions that we're going to have to decide.